So I'm going to do another video about the class content, and then I'll decide at the end if it's going too long, if it's worth talking about the exams and the quizzes and all those kind of things. But I'm going to talk about the class content, the way the classes are kind of structured. I've already talked about the schedule, the block schedule, and all this stuff. So first year, first semester, first block, right? So you're going to have a couple classes, and I'm going to miss some classes. I'm just going to forget. But you generally have anatomy 1, biochem 1, genetics 1, physiology 1, immunology. And I think it's just immunology. I don't think there's an immunology 2, because I think it's virology the next block. And then you also have, those are the classes that you usually take in the morning. So those are the 4-hour classes in the mornings that you often take. Sometimes they'll throw in something called FMR, PMP. Those are like biostatistics. Those are like professionalism classes, those kind of things. But they're not going to be on your quizzes and exams. They're going to be at the end of the block. They're going to be a big exam at the end of the block. So you have those classes. I'm probably missing 1 or 2. And then in the afternoons, you have for your first block, first year, you have on Monday afternoons, you have something called OMM, which is osteopathic manipulative medicine. You're going to be a DO. So what that means is you're going to go in for 2 hours. It's a lab, and you're going to at the end of Monday morning, so from 11 to 11:50 a.m., you're going to have an OMM lecture, and that's just going to give you some background as to what you're going to be doing in the lab. And the lab is you're doing OMM. You're going to jump right into it. It's just going to be doing manipulation. You're going to be doing HVLA, MET, counter strain, all those kind of things. You're going to be learning all this stuff about OMM. So that's going to be 2 hours in the afternoon. You're going to be split into groups. We had group A and group B because we were a smaller class. You might be split into a bigger group because you will be a bigger class coming in than I was. Group A, sometimes we go in the first session. So it's 2 hour class, like I said. It starts at 1. So lecture ends technically at 11:50, and then 1 p.m. is the first class to 3 p.m. and then 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. That's how we did it. If you're a bigger class, they might split you into 3 groups. I don't know how they're going to structure it, but generally on Monday afternoons, you're going to have OMM. Tuesday afternoons, you're going to have anatomy lab, which is just cadaver. That's just cadaver. And that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays, same structure, 2 hours. You're either the first group or the second group. You're either group A, group B. That's how we did it. And then Wednesdays, often you have something called clinical skills, and that's where you start to learn to do blood pressures, heart rates, physical examinations, different types of things. And it's often relevant to the subject matter that you're learning in your first 4 lectures, not of the day, but just generally speaking, right? So if you're going to be, let's say, in the second semester of your first year or first semester of your second year, like when you're doing systems, musculoskeletal, psychiatry, neurology, those kind of things, you're going to start to do clinical skills that are relevant to those classes. Like I said, in the first 2 blocks, the first semester of medical school, you're going to do more biomedical things, kind of what you've been doing in undergrad a little bit more, but just more volume. There's not really super specific things for that, if I'm not forgetting. So you're going to be doing more general clinical skills like blood pressures, physical examinations, those types of things. Asking people questions, interviewing patients. You're going to be thrown right into like interviewing what we call standardized patients. Those are patients that come in, and then they assume a character, and then you interview them, you talk to them, OSCEs, those kind of things. Like I said, Thursday afternoon you're going to be doing cadaver lab, and then Friday afternoons often you have FMR, PMP, and those are your functional medicine something class. I forget what the R stands for, and then PMP stands for professional medical practice. And those are classes, like I said, biostats, ethics, different like philosophical things. Like it's just often on Friday mornings after your quiz, they're going to have about 3, maybe 2 lectures about different types of things, and then that content is going to be on a big exam at the end of the block. And I haven't met anybody that's failed it. I'm sure some people might have, but generally speaking, people do well with it. It's just you got to make sure you're keeping up with the material, those kind of things. So those are the content. That's the content and structure of the classes for your first block. Second block, very similar structure, so I'm not going to re-explain all that stuff. OMM in the afternoon, Monday, Tuesday and Thursday, cadaver, Wednesday, clinical skills, and then Friday morning, it's often some sort of clinical skill case presentation maybe, or FMR, PMP classes, those types of things. It depends. Sometimes there's a conference in general that they want you to go to. But anatomy 2, biochem 2, genetics 2, pathology/histology, virology, and I think those are the 5 classes that you take. You might take another one, but I'm pretty sure that's for the most part it. yeah, those are your biomedical courses. And then, like I said, you also have OMM lecture Monday morning, the last class, and then you have whatever the lab associated with it. That's going to be its own grade. And then clinical skills, that's going to be its own grade. And then sometimes you have clinical skills lectures, like maybe once a week or so. Depends on the week. And then you have PMP and FMR. PMP and FMR are pass-fail. The other ones are graded, and I'll talk about the grading thing maybe at the end of this. It's already 5 minutes, so I'm already really too far into this. It gets a lot easier after this. Second semester of your first year, that's when you get into systems. So systems is just obviously, like I'll just explain it and you'll kind of understand it. Your first block, so that's your third block. So your first block of your second semester is going to be musculoskeletal and neurology. And then your second block of your second semester, which is your fourth block, is going to be neurology 2 and psychiatry. And then the block that we just finished up was cardiopulmonary. This block that we're doing right now is dermatology, hematology, oncology, and nephrology. So that's the basic structure of the classes. I don't know if it's worth getting into. So the way the grades work for the biomedical courses and the systems courses, apart from clinical skills, apart from OMM, and apart from PMP and FMR, well, actually, sorry. Apart from PMP and FMR, every class, whether it's anatomy, genetics, musculoskeletal, psychiatry, neurology, cardiopulm, what have you, those all have. Hematology, oncology. It's like one class. It's not two classes. So I didn't make a distinction there. But cardiopulmonary, those are two different classes. So you have cardiology, pulmonology. They are graded. So it is. I'll just give you some examples. 79.5 to 89.49, I think. That's a B. And then same thing. So 89.5 to obviously 100 is an A. And that's a 4.0, and it's a 3.0 for a B, and it's a 2.0 for a C. And then obviously, I think it's 1.0 for a D. I don't know exactly, but it's, I think you just failed the course. I think below a C, you fail the course, and you have to remediate it. And you do that during the block breaks, like I said in the last video. But yeah, that's how the grades work, and that's for every class except for PMP and FMR. OMM have their own grades, clinical skills has its own grades, and then the systems have their own grades, the biomedical courses have their own grades, and I don't know if there's anything else worth getting into at this point, because we're already 7 minutes in. But yeah, feel free to skip forward, back. I mean, you can do whatever you want in this YouTube video. Sorry. Any comments you have, any questions you have, just put them in the comments below. But that's the general structure of the material that you're going to be going through through your 1.5 years of medical school, because I haven't gone through my second semester yet, my second year. And that's the way the grades work. And the next video I'm going to talk about, I think, there was another topic that I had in mind that I think is relevant to incoming DUQCOM students, for them to know what's happening. But I'll think of it whenever the time comes. Whenever the time is right, it'll come. All right, bye.